fun journey working with you guys, and up to this point, we were talking about it last time. We've seen some pretty encouraging results. I think you guys have a pretty good plan in place now to go after some of the mining guys with this upcoming campaign. Really just wanted to grab Kara, kind of sync up, all get on the same page as you guys transition to myself, to her being your main cheese over here, so that she's completely up to speed, and you guys can basically set up an order of operations so that you can have some check-in calls. They can still be very strategic. We can give you all the support to keep you guys rolling.
Sounds good. So how do you want to start?
Well, I want to start by asking first and foremost if you guys have any questions whatsoever while we are on the line before we transition to some of the other stuff, just to make sure we cover all of our bases here.
Well, Alex would be the one I would think to be able to to bring up the majority of the questions, because he's been the one that's been championing most of what's been going on.
I think it might be him talking in the background. I thought I heard that voice.
I think that might be Derek. We're sitting pretty close together.
Okay.
My apologies.
Yeah, no problem. I guess, personally, from my standpoint, my biggest questions would be how to ensure that you're engaging with the people that you've got to your website with the content that you have, reusing the old content, but at the same time, keeping it fresh. So we've read a lot of the materials that you guys put out, and it's great stuff. All the ebooks and whatnot you've got, the templates for the ebooks and the content ideas for blogs and all that kind of stuff. And we've actually compiled a fairly, a robust list of content ideas. We're planning on sort of turning that into blogs and ebooks and things like that. I just don't want to run into a situation where the information seems redundant or not fresh. Do you have any suggestions there?
I think in general that I haven't seen that become a problem unless you keep basically writing the same exact thing over and over. I think as long as you take new points of view on whatever the topic is, whether it's positives, negatives, tips and tricks, questions that you commonly get, things like that, I don't think you typically run into those problems. But that being said, I would go by the data. If you start to see some data sliding off, or you're finding out that your new blog articles aren't getting quite as many views even though you thought they might, then maybe that's a little bit of an indication. So I'm a big fan of testing and analyzing on the back end. I would probably go that route versus going with your gut in this case.
Fair enough. So you basically use the individual pieces to judge, what the effectiveness of those pieces are, and then you figure out how you want to use them from there on in using that data.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, if you're going to write a series of blog articles around a certain idea or a certain topic, and you've been blogging for 6 months, and an average blog article typically gets X amount of views. If you launch this new series of articles around one of your new personas, and the numbers just aren't quite as good, then maybe it's an indication that either we're reusing the same type of stuff, or maybe it's not as relevant to our audience as we suspected it might be.
Okay, cool. Great. All right. And in terms of calls to action, the number of calls to action, the number of articles, you can never have too many, or can you clutter yourself up?
Well, I think when it comes to calls to action, you can clutter yourself up. Like if you had one page and there was a ton of those things, I think that maybe then it'd be a little bit overboard. But I think it really comes back to how good the content is. If it's good stuff that you guys are offering and people are downloading it, then it's not too much. But if you're offering what you think is good stuff and people aren't downloading it, then it's time to start thinking, okay, is there too much going on this page? Is this really as good as we thought? And you can always use our page performance tool to take a peek and see how each individual page is converting. And again, go by the data.
Cool. Okay.
Also, just to interject here, I also think a good rule of thumb for this question, because I do get it a lot about all the different calls to action, is think about back in the day, like when the internet kind of started booming, like mid-90s, how many times you would go to a page and see the ads for Win an iPod. And those were official calls to action, but how often did you actually click on that?
Yeah, no, good point, for sure.
That's kind of always my rule of thumb in that space. Just for my 2 cents. Sorry to interrupt.
No, not at all. No, it's good feedback. Okay. But in terms of the total number of calls to action that you've got on your website, you can never have too many, correct? Not on the page, but, in total, the number of different calls to action that you have.
Just in general, I think you can never really have too much, because every page on your site if there isn't a call to action, is basically a missed opportunity. So at a minimum, every page on your site should have something. And as you develop more content, you can be a little bit more particular as to where you want to put stuff and what makes sense. What you guys can also do, given the level of HubSpot that you have, is you can always set up targeting. So HubSpot has a really cool functionality called the Smart CTAs, where you can create lists of people based on whatever sales criteria you care about and show them targeted content on your site. So down the road, as you guys start to branch out and go after more of your personas, like with the mining campaign coming up, it can be one of those things where you guys can incorporate some of that logic and be a little bit more particular about what you do show based on what you know about the behavior of your visitors.
Cool.
And that's something that if you guys are interested in setting up, obviously we can get you into the tutorials and you can work on fine-tuning it with Kara down the road.
Cool. That sounds good. And in terms of additional resources for our learning purposes from here on in, HubSpot University or the Academy has pretty much everything we need, correct?
Yes. So in that HubSpot, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Start talking. I'm very chatty. I apologize. Do you want to take this, Andrew?
No, you already started. Go ahead. You're good.
So you're correct. Within the HubSpot training link, you have access to all those product courses whenever it is you want to take them, freshen up on your skills. And if there's any specific task you need to complete or if there's any hurdle you're facing within HubSpot, please feel free to reach out to me because I can point you in the direction of the right resources. We can always schedule a 30-minute strategy session with one of our professors to make sure that you do have everything set up correctly and when you're ready to go and launch these types of campaigns.
Perfect. Okay.
And just so you know, and we don't have to go through it right now, but we can talk about this down the road after you start what we call, quote-unquote, HubSpotting on your own. We do have a lot of post-onboarding packages available that we have one called Campaign Execution, where our consultants who are on this team will build out a specific aspect of your marketing. If it's to drive visits or leads or turn those leads into customers, they can build it for you. And these all come with a price tag, but we don't need to get into the weeds of it right now. We also have success workshops. One is based just on a deeper dive of your inbound marketing, and another one is how to align sales and marketing together. So if that comes up down the road, I'm the person that you come to talk about this stuff, and we can figure out what works best for you guys.
Okay. Sounds good. I guess another question from my standpoint is workflow. It's so important. And it's something that we do on the Salesforce side of things a lot, but we haven't really, got under the hood with the HubSpot in too much detail. I know that Alex has done a couple of workflows, but we're still missing a lot, I think, of what it could offer for us. So in a typical Salesforce workflow, we're dealing with obviously more than just the website and the front end of lead capturing. We're dealing with more back end processes that are custom to our organization. And that's why we've got HubSpot integrated with Salesforce to give the sort of the best of both worlds. But what I'm wondering is what types of workflows I could leverage upfront using HubSpot that sort of capitalize on what HubSpot's strengths are. Which would then allow me to focus more on using HubSpot, and then on the back end, just for our day-to-day procedures and policies and follow-ups and things of that nature, rely on the Salesforce aspect.
So just to be clear, you're just talking about automating your Salesforce workflows with HubSpot workflows?
Just trying to figure out where I can start one and end the other. That's all. Currently, right now, Salesforce does most of our workflow work for us, but obviously it's not focusing on the marketing aspect of things, whereas HubSpot does. So I'm just curious in terms of, obviously, I don't want to go into what our back-end workflows are. That's just not going to, it's going to be a waste of time. But with HubSpot specifically, the types of workflows that are the most impactful are just, from what I can tell anyways, automated follow-up to leads so that those that are in the funnel can be followed up appropriately at the right part of the funnel with the right material. Is that an accurate representation?
Yeah, Rob, just to jump in here. So the way that I see it used a lot, because I get this question all the time, which is, hey, we've got workflows in Salesforce. Where do I draw the line in the two? This is going to be something that will be a lot more important as you guys continue to scale and up the lead generation that you do have. One of the things that I see HubSpot be really good at in terms of nurturing is getting people into the sales process. So with you guys, I know that one of the big things that you work on is getting people to set up a demo. content. They use the workflows to push them down that middle of the funnel content, some of the stuff that shows like your brochures and your benefits and your feature sheets and things like that, and then push them all the way to that demo. And typically when someone gets to that demo, then sales owns the lead. And that's where workflows or whatever processes you may have in Salesforce will take over.
Yeah, that's exactly.
That's what I see all the time over here, and you guys can certainly fine-tune that stuff, but just wanted to share.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. So that makes sense to me. Thank you.
Yeah, and then you can use all the data to sort of fine-tune that marketing process where marketing still owns the leads versus, sales taking over.
Yes, and in a situation where sales was unsuccessful in converting a lead, the marketing data would allow us to re-engage potentially with that prospect later on down the road.
Exactly. Actually, were you on the last call that we had? Did we talk about a really cool example of that?
I was absent for most of it, unfortunately. I had a health issue.
So there's a really cool story here. Well, first of all, sorry to hear that. Hopefully there's nothing important.
Oh, no.
I need to just skip over that. But
I'm totally fine.
That being said, here's a really cool story that I'll share with you guys just as you guys start to think about other things you can do here. So at HubSpot, we get this all the time where it's like, okay, we had all these great leads. So, what do we do when they're disengaged? Sales has reached out. We didn't sell to them. Is there anything else we can do? And usually the answer is no. But up until recently, there's a really cool story that we actually did at HubSpot that worked out really well. So I like to share it now.
Yeah, please.
On our side, when we try to reach out. Go ahead, Rob. Sorry.
Oh, I just said no. Please go ahead.
Oh, okay, cool. I thought I was cutting you off there.
Nope.
So on our side, what we do is we typically reach out 3 or 4 times, either via phone or email. And if we can't connect with someone after that many tries, we mark them as close lost. We say forget about it. It's a no deal. What we did is when we mark close lost in Salesforce, it actually triggers a workflow through HubSpot, and that workflow is literally just one email. The title of the email is "Congratulations, you avoided our sales rep," and in the email is a video. And it's a video of our CMO, Mike Volpe. It's kind of this joke of a YouTube video, and he's running around the mall across the street, and he's jumping in cabs, and it's like sales reps are coming at him like zombies. It's a pretty funny video.
That's good. I like that.
And the whole point of it is that in the video, it's a minute and a half long. He says, hey, congrats for avoiding our sales team. As a marketer, you know that talking to sales guys is a pain in the ass. If you want to check out our products and you don't want to talk to someone, we're not going to bug you, but here's some links that you can check out that'll give you greatest hits. And if you change your mind and you do want to talk to someone, here's a link to our consultation or assessment. I forget what it is.
Cool.
So it's just a cool idea. Data-wise, it's been crushing it. It's got the highest, 3 times the highest open rate on any other email we've sent out. The click-through rate's astronomical. It's re-engaging a couple guys that normally we would never talk to. So it's another idea of things you can do, thinking outside the box.
Yeah, it's a great example. I love that.
Karen, when you send that follow-up, can you shoot him a link to that email or that?
Absolutely. I just took note of it. It's so funny. When it first came out, the kid that sits behind me was laughing to himself over and over again. And I was like, and I was like, what are you laughing at? He's like, the video. The video stopped playing and he was still laughing. It's
That's
so
funny.
You're going to love it.
Cool.
And there's no reason why you guys can't create some version of something similar to try and re-engage a few folks instead of just letting them sink away.
No, absolutely. I've been having a look at some of the email templates and things of that nature that you've got here that could potentially leverage in some of our sales process and marketing processes. And one of the questions I had on that was a lot of them are fairly rigid in terms of the structure, that being like put your picture here, put your words here, put your form here, which is good because it gives some good guidelines. But do you find that if people are being constantly not harassed but constantly hit up with these offers and this information, and the calls to action typically look very similar, does that stagnate or make it stale at all, or is that actually very effective because they're used to seeing it?
I think that's something that you can start to test out in how you've built out all of your content and all of these pages, and start to see what it is works best, and then from that kind of wash, rinse, repeat it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Within the enterprise platform, we do have a lot of A/B testing for landing pages and calls to action, and that is a really good way to test that out. But with what you're asking, if I understand it correctly, it's just kind of like it's the placement of how things are, if that's going to affect the conversion, and that's just something that you'll tell over time.
Okay. I assumed that what you had there was sort of based on best practices. That being said, I just was wondering if you'd had any experience where people were less attentive to those those types of calls to action and landing pages because they've seen it from you multiple times, so it's just sort of stagnated or become less relevant. But I think you answered my question.
Okay, cool.
One of the other things we're starting to do now is leverage some video of our live of our tools, and we're just making it in-house right now. It's fairly simple to do, but when including video in an email template or in a landing page or anything like that, what length of time do you generally want to shoot for? Because obviously you don't want to make a long video and you don't want to make it too short.
That's a good question too. You're really not throwing me softballs, but with the video, I think that's a really good way to demonstrate the functionalities of. Oh, did I just call you Scott? I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Sorry, it's been a crazy day.
Not a problem.
I apologize, Rob.
It's okay.
So, with these videos and with the timing of it, I mean, I always challenge my customers when they ask me these questions to think of how long they would watch that. You know, like if it's a 10-minute video, I turn it off about 2 minutes into it. I have the attention span of a puppy dog. So I don't have the capability for that, but it depends on what you're looking to drive. I mean, I think rule of thumb, like let's say under 3 to 4 minutes, and you can just tell by what HubSpot puts out there and what type of videos we produce. They're all pretty short and too straight and to the point.
Okay. How long is the video of the CEO running around with his head cut off?
Let me double check.
I think it's about 2 minutes. It's pretty short.
I'm looking at it right now. It's 1 minute and 34 seconds.
Yeah, that seems kind of ideal to me, I think.
Yeah. That's why I said under 3.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
There's an interesting email statistic. Don't quote me on this because it's not exact, but it's something along the lines of the average email gets read under 20 seconds or under 15 seconds or something like that. So I think it's all about that first couple seconds. If it's something engaging and something good, people are probably going to stick it out as long as it's not super, super long. Mm-hmm. But if it's sort of okay or maybe it's not so good, then it's probably just going to get filed.
Makes sense. Okay.
That's why we always advocate like short and sweet when it comes to emails, heavy on the images or buttons if you have them, just because it is so hard to get people's attention.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think you really capture that essence on your homepage with the use of icons and large fonts, and then you're sort of directing them deeper and deeper into the site through a channeled sort of method, which is quite good.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's cool. In terms of the templates, we've been using your ebook template for the last little while, and it's quite good in terms of, I think it's exactly the same kind of thing that you're talking about with your website, which is trying to make sure people are engaged by having big pictures and big highlights on fonts and things like that. But in terms of the length of the typical ebook, I mean, you guys have a really good grading system for your material. That is, this is for beginners, intermediate, for advanced users, and the size of your ebooks varies greatly as well. So I guess the question from my standpoint is, if we're going to be developing educational material like this to bring people in, should we be doing the same kind of thing where we keep it light on one end and then we get it deeper and deeper towards when they're getting closer and closer to buying?
This is something that I would probably reassess as time goes on. The reason being, like taking a step back, the whole purpose of creating that premium content and gating it, sure, it's to provide great, valuable content to your visitors so they turn into contacts. But more importantly, it's for you guys to generate new email addresses from the website versus just handing out awesome stuff. So the way to think about it is, if you're able to do just a 1 or 2 page overview, PDF, ebook, whatever you want to call it, and still generate a ton of new contacts, maybe that's just efficient enough for you guys. The way to think about it is, who do we want to get and what can we dangle in front of them to find out who they are? Because once you give them that content, it's almost sort of secondary for you guys as a business. Because what you want to do is generate those new contacts you can upsell them. So I think that as long as your conversion rates stay high, and as long as that stuff is professional and does come off as helpful to these guys, I tend to think less is more.
Cool. Okay. That makes sense. And then in terms of the follow-up, and again, probably using workflow, follow-up email campaigns and things of that nature to sort of try to foster a relationship or build the interest in our product. We would continue to send supplemental material, additional ebooks and things of that nature. And that material, same kind of thing. You just want to keep it really light, or do you want to try to draw them further down the sales funnel by giving them more and more of what they were initially looking for?
I would always try to push them down the sales funnel. So you came in doing some research. We know that your average sales cycle is, 6 months? I forget exactly what you guys told me offhand, but you told me it's a couple months long. Mm-hmm. What we want to do is what's happening in real time is you're probably having internal meetings. You're having some discussions to figure out, is this the right type of solution for us? What questions do we have? I would give them those types of resources and then give them links to get to the next step in the decision-making process. So you've got your educational, informational stuff. Well, here's some stuff to help to help you as a visitor compare us to other companies out there. Oh, perfect. You've already done your comparison. Well, let us show you how easy it is for you to get a consultation or a demo. So always trying to give them hooks to that next step so that we can automate that whole decision-making and sales process.
Great. So that's where the importance of trying to determine what the decision-making process is for our clients, and that's personas makes the most sense.
Exactly. That's kind of why when we first started, that's where we kicked it off, just because, sure, we can cast a wide net and offer something that's sort of vanilla and interesting to everybody, but the way that you can really do this stuff and become really targeted and really good at it is based on that focus and that segmentation, so that you can see on the back end, where we can plug in all the details.
No, that's great. It's good. That's good. And in terms of just the HubSpot tool itself, the keywords, I can't remember exactly how many keywords we have now. Again, Alex has been managing the majority of that, but adding additional keywords, I think, is probably key for us. How many keywords should we be looking for? And what do you think the best way to get a ton of those is?
So in general, it looks like you've got just shy of 250 out of a potential 1,000 that we can store in here. Typically, when I start working with folks, I try to get them beefed up in the couple hundred range. So you're right in that right now. I know a bunch of these are branded terms, they include the words whistleblower or something like that, or the Walker Group or things along those lines. What I would try to do is beat this up to a couple hundred, maybe 300-400. I know this was something that actually Alex was asking about last time, and I think Scott actually was asking about this last time too, and we talked about ways that you can kind of peek over the fence and take a peek at some of your competitors' websites, steal out a couple keywords that way. But basically what I would do is almost focus more on the sales side of things. What questions do you typically get? And I would try to answer every single question from now on with a content piece in the form of a blog article. And that way it's less focused on keywords and more on just informational, educational content that's going to be very helpful and useful to your, to your personas and your audience base.
Interesting. Okay. So in a situation where I'm dealing with
questions come in to you. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, no. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, so when those questions do come in, I would try to take out your specific, your specific solutions, like, where do I click here? Or like, what can I do in this tool? And more so, what general problems are they trying to solve in the industry, so that I can answer it with some tips or tricks or some knowledge that we have, being the experts here, to get them to the website to get that content distributed.
So the questions essentially lead to the content, which you then produce and then share with those that ask the questions.
Exactly, because the truth is, keywords are part of that. But when it's been pretty warm here the other day, or the last couple of days, but when it gets really cold, I could I wouldn't Google hats or winter hats. I would Google what's winter hat? What's a great winter hat with a fleece lining? Or, what's an old man style cap I could get with ear flaps? And I know that's a crazy example, but this is really something that I've been Googling the last couple of days. And that's how most people search nowadays. And certainly there are keywords within that: hats with flaps, fleece hats, things like that. So more so on the content side of things. Because the truth is, in a couple of years, keyword research and pure SEO is going to become less important than it is today. So the content is going to be even more crucial to the success of the website. This is sort of a greatest hits, good bang for your buck in terms of writing new stuff.
Interesting. Cool. Okay. Okay, another question, sort of segue back to the Salesforce versus HubSpot thing we were talking about just a little while ago. would it be more useful for us to manage our contacts along with their contact data and the sales process in HubSpot with the contacts section as opposed to the Salesforce build? And the reason I say that is that obviously the tools that HubSpot offers are fully integrated with the contact files that are here present in the HubSpot application. So it might be easier to access some of those tools by using the contact tool within HubSpot. But currently, what we're doing is we're doing the majority of the work within the Salesforce application, which does not have integrated access to those tools. So what do you think it would make more sense to utilize the contacts section in the HubSpot CMS?
Are you guys currently not integrated to HubSpot and Salesforce?
We are. We have the Salesforce connector integrated. We have the we also have the HubSpot fields are integrated into the layout for our Salesforce application.
I would probably stick with Salesforce just because HubSpot truly isn't a CRM. And there are certain things that Salesforce does better from managing a contact perspective in terms of like entering in peer notes and logging activities and sort of adding in like, the notes, details of your conversations and things. HubSpot isn't really as effective at doing that just because it's not designed that way. So that's just my opinion. But if that isn't important, maybe you could make some custom fields and call it notes or something like that in HubSpot. You certainly could play around with it. But typically what I'll see on my end is folks use Salesforce to manage the sales process, kind of taking a peek at the HubSpot intelligence that's listed in there. But for the most part, we'll use HubSpot for marketing database, Salesforce for the sales stuff. That
makes sense. Okay. Well, that's good. That's a good question to answer. Just because we're sort of at a loss right now in terms of who should be doing what where. So we can look at HubSpot as the way to get contacts into our database, and we can look at Salesforce as the way to manage those contacts once they're in the sales cycle. That's perfect. Cool. Okay. Right on. Are there any other tools in the HubSpot CMS you think would be handy for us to get a real grip on before we sort of start HubSpotting on our own?
In general, based on the stuff that I've helped you guys kind of integrate up to this point, you're using a lot of the ones that you need to use. The truth is with HubSpot, there's a ton of cool tools in there and a ton of shiny bells and whistles. And the whole reason why we have a consultant, someone like myself, is to figure out, which ones even make sense for you to be using and then figure out how you guys can use them to get the most out of this stuff based on what you'd like to see in terms of success. So based on the stuff that you guys and I have worked on up until this point, I don't think that there's any glaring needs. So we've created a way for you guys to generate new contacts from your website. We've created calls to action. We've done it targeted around key personas, and they're converting pretty well with this 3.3% conversion rate. Well, then we took that and we said, okay, phase 2, let's get some workflows in place so we can take some of these leads and push them down that sales cycle and hopefully get a few customers out of it down the road. So you're using the workflow tools. And then on the other side, we're using the keyword tools and some of the analytics tools to help beef up your site traffic, as well as the social media aspects. So I think that you guys are using a lot of the main tools that you'll need to see success. There's nothing on my end that I wish you were using that you weren't. The only thing that I think that you guys could experiment with down the road is some of the call to action stuff and setting up smart calls to action. And I think that would be a great thing for you guys to set up down the road with Kara. It's something I think that, as far as what I've seen, usually yields pretty good results.
Great. Okay.
I just took note of that. So that's something we'll be talking about next time, Rob.
Fantastic. Great.
So it sounds like you guys have a really good foundation to, as we said, HubSpot on your own. So my role here is now your primary point of contact. It's best to think of me as your quarterback here. For all technical questions you may have, you can always call support directly or log a ticket through your portal.
Okay.
I will check on you every 6 to 8 weeks, but please don't wait for me if you have a question. Andrew can attest, I'm here all the time, as he is. That's why we know. But you can always give me a call, throw me an email. I'm always here to help.
Great. Okay. Yeah, I think probably Scott and I and Alex would be your primary contacts.
Yeah.
because Shannon typically has less to do with the technical side of things and more to do with the business. So we'd be basically working.
I'll continue to reach out to the three of you guys.
Great, that's perfect. And
awesome.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much everything we need off right now. Andrew, it's been great working with you.
Hey, likewise as well. It's been a lot of fun getting this stuff in place, and you guys are seeing some great results up to this point. The truth is, Karen and I sit about 20 feet away from each other. We literally just pass each other in the hallway about 6 times a day, so if she ever needs to tap me on the shoulder and ask me a question, I'll make sure to give her all the info that we've talked about and worked on up to this point, but you guys will be in good hands there.
Cool. Okay. Well, is there anything else you guys want to go over? I mean, I think I've exhausted all of my questions.
I think we're good for now. I think that we have some good action items for our next call, and we can pick it up in 6 or 8 weeks or so. But again, I'm here when you need me.
Great. Okay. Well, Karen, I'll reach out if I need anything, and I'm sure Scott and Alex will do the same. Andrew, if you want me to send you a Canadian old man hat with ear flaps, I'm sure we can dig one up.
Oh my God! Can you send him one so I can make him wear it around the office?
I'll see if I can find something with embarrassing colors.
Oh, please.
I walk into work, so I would definitely wear it too. I've been looking for one.
All right, guys. Well, thanks so much. And Karen will be in touch. Andrew, it's like you say, bittersweet, but I'm sure we'll hear from each other once in a while, anyways.
That sounds good. Yeah, you can always shoot me an update if there's anything great going on. Karen will handle all the bad stuff.
Sounds good. Love that.
Can't wait.
Okay, guys.
All right, take care, Rob.
You too. Thanks so much.
Bye, Rob.
Bye, guys.